It's the Rev here from That Stupid Podcast. Over on the other side, I got RJ also from That Stupid Podcast. And give us a little introduction, Tess.
I'm Tess Arnold, writer, philosopher, all-around goofball.
So this isn't That Stupid Podcast, as you've probably already realized, and not just because we have a guest on.
No, it's because we have a guest on.
Don't be mean. Don't be that guy.
I'm being that guy.
Don't be that guy.
I feel so well.
So this is actually the first teaser look at what will become a new podcast called Political Prowess. I used to write a political blog several years ago, politicalprowess.com. You probably don't remember it because only like 7 people read it. But I'm going to resurrect it in the form of a podcast. Tess has agreed to be one of the hosts from time to time, hopefully more than just occasionally. I'm trying to convince him to do it as basically every week, but we'll see if we can get him to do it once a week or not.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
We're also going to do at least one other host, and then I'm going to occasionally come in as like the middleman, if you will. So what we're going to talk about today, and we had to talk about it, you know, RJ and I have been talking about this all week. We've got to talk about Duck Dynasty, and obviously it's not something that we can talk about. Even though technically it's been on the Internet of Things, it's not something that really fits in That Stupid Podcast.
Can I say one thing
Totally.
real quick?
What's up?
It's been a really bad week for gay ducks. I'm just throwing that out there.
Really.
Aw. That's... Wow.
It's been a bad week for gay ducks.
And when you think about the penchant of ducks to, you know, engage in rape, it just gets that much worse.
I know, it's horrible.
Really. Ducks are horrible.
So...
emails for that.
Jesus, that's just...
It's okay. Hate mail. Make sure to send it to us. Show at thatstupidpodcast.com. Soon to be show at politicalprowess.com, but we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah, one of these days.
So the guy, his name's Phil, right? I don't know what his last name is.
Phil Robertson. I
Phil
actually had to
Robertson.
look it up because I've never watched this show. I should say that first. I've never seen Duck Dynasty. I did look his name up. Yeah, it's Phil Robertson. So
he is a crazy guy. And I'm not sure if he's necessarily crazy. I've seen the show.
He's the lost member of ZZ Top.
There you go. Like, I've seen the show, and generally
kind of insulting to ZZ Top, though. I mean, let's be fair.
Well, generally, generally what he preaches on the show with the whole stuff, raising his grandkids and stuff,
right,
it's pretty normal. Unfortunately, what he was preaching this week in an article released with GQ magazine was nothing but, in my opinion, just pure,
awful,
unadulterated hatred.
Awful.
I mean,
it was pure awful.
It was ignorance to the point of bigotry.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. But... And I had to read the GQ article. I read excerpts. I read quotes.
But did you read the full article?
Actually, yeah, I read it yesterday. And because the truth is, I give no fucks about what anybody has to say.
So apparently 0 fucks are given by Tess.
No. In case you were wondering where the baseline was, it's 0 fucks.
I have a life and shit I want to get done in the day and don't care what some reality TV star says about anything. And that includes evangelicals on TV or politicians on TV, unless they're talking about laws that actually make a difference. And I could not care. I saw it as a headline because I read a lot of news, and just like, meh, whatever, fucking redneck on TV, running his mouth, big deal, it's publicity. And then the internet started to explode like a Michael Bay film about this, that, and the other, and I ended up writing a blog about it, and it has not much to do actually with Phil himself. It has to do with the public's reaction to this absolute non-event. It was nothing. It wasn't jack and shit. It might have made somebody more money, but it's not anything that affects anybody's daily life and should not, just for the record. But you hear all this, I kept reading things about the First Amendment, which is stupid on its face. Not the First Amendment, but what people were saying about it, because it's not the government oppressing him, and that's what the First Amendment protects from. First Amendment of the Constitution protects from the government suppressing unpopular language, not a private industry. And you'd think anybody conservative would be, in favor of not getting in the way of a private industry doing what it wants. People railing about free speech, and I'll tell you, and some of you have read this stuff, you've probably seen it, you're free to speak what the hell you want. I go with Voltaire. I may not like what you say, but I'll defend to the death your ability to say it, or your right to say it.
And I don't want to cut you off, but that's exactly part of what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
I get that he's allowed to say whatever the hell he wants to.
Yep.
My problem is that at certain level of celebrity status, when you're plastered, when your face is all over every Walmart in America, and you have kids that watch your show and look up to you, how do you think it's okay to go out there into a magazine? Now, don't get me wrong, like 6-year-olds aren't getting their subscriptions to GQ on or anything like that.
Yeah.
But how do you find it okay to go out and say crap like that?
Spread a little hate.
And even like it's not shocking to us that a redneck doesn't approve of the gay lifestyle. I mean,
He calls himself a Bible thumper.
Yeah,
That's
like
how he
he's
refers
a
to himself.
Yeah.
I guess that's my problem. Is like
Congratulations.
you look at us as a civilian level of freedom of speech. Then even you guys watching the show, if we go out there and yell and scream in the parking lot, somebody's gonna go, "Hey, shut up."
Right.
But if you're a celebrity and you go out and whisper that or tweet it, holy, that's a
Everywhere.
shitstorm.
Goes
So,
everywhere.
and that's a good segue into my 5 things that I wanted to kind of talk about specific to this, right? And the first one is exactly that. You have the right to say anything you want. You, however, don't have the right to expect zero consequences from
The
the shit that
backlash.
comes out of your mouth.
Exactly.
So if A&E wants to fire you or suspend you for saying something that they don't agree with, guess what? Goodbye.
Even though they're totally running a
If
Duck
I
Dynasty
did that-
marathon all this week to
oh,
make
yeah.
money off of it.
I work for AT&T. You're not going to hear me ever on this show badmouth AT&T. You
On
know
this
why?
show.
Be nice.
I'm kidding. It's a joke.
I don't tweet negative comments about AT&T because I don't want to lose my job. It's that simple. If he doesn't, and I'm not saying he tweets anything about that bad about A&E because he didn't.
No.
But I do want to mention something that surprisingly wasn't talked about. So everyone's talking about the anti-gay stuff. The anti-gay stuff.
Yeah.
Anti-gay stuff.
Talking about the
'cause
blacks in the South.
I would
That's-
that's what I'm
yeah,
talking about.
yeah, the
I mean,
60s
granted, he
and the
talked,
70s.
he did the
Well,
whole Phil
the
Roberts
civil rights
Well,
movement,
because
yeah.
Pat Robertson said pretty much the same thing about the gay leads to bestiality.
Yeah.
But I grabbed the quote because I didn't want to get it wrong. And he said, I never, growing up in the South, he goes, I never with my eyes saw the mistreatment of any black person, not once. And I'm not saying I disbelieve or believe that. That's fine if that's true.
I mean,
Where where we lived was all farmers. The blacks worked for the farmers. I hoed cotton with them. I'm with the blacks, he goes on to say, because we're white trash. We're going across the field, they're singing and happy. What's ironic, and I'm going to paraphrase most of the rest of it, he basically goes on to say that the blacks were happy and they were singing and
Until
la-da-da-da.
welfare showed up.
Yeah, the irony there is, he's like, they weren't singing the blues, they were singing happy songs.
Yeah,
Does he
it's like-
not realize that's where the blues started?
yeah, that's where they were.
That's kind of,
invented.
Well, not to mention,
Cotton fields.
in that
So-
same thing, he talks about how he was like, no, they just wanted to work. Nobody needed welfare, and everybody was happy
Right.
until welfare came along, and
Yeah.
that made everybody upset. What?
So it just surprises me, and that's why I think talking about this on a political show is important, because this is political, and the proof of that is the fact that we're not politically talking about the anti-African American, anti-black statements he's made, because they're not prominently in everybody's mind.
I'm nominating that for white privilege quote of the year.
White privilege quote of the year. I mean, you think about it. 17 states now have started legislation to pass same-sex marriage.
Absolutely.
Idaho just moved forward.
18.
Right,
And they
'cause
just- they
Idaho,
just-
with
I was
Utah,
gonna say, yeah,
well,
they just-
Utah's not done yet, right?
Well,
It's-
the federal judge.
We're waiting for
in
one more-
Utah
yeah.
Struck it down.
Struck it down.
Right,
Yeah.
and
now,
Said it was
Bill's
uncivilized.
being
Or,
devised,
Well,
right?
within an hour of him striking it down, people were lined up at the courthouse
To
and
re-legis-
actually
to re-legislate.
getting married.
Oh, they
were.
Actually
Oh, they were getting married.
Oh,
Okay,
really?
So I'm a
They're
little
actually
What?
behind.
That's
getting married,
awesome.
And
Yeah.
it won't be until the appeals process
Until it's
goes
a legal
until they can do
Right.
shit, yeah.
So no, it won't be until the appeals process goes through that an injunction can be filed to stop marriages.
them up.
Okay.
So right now they're straight until
Right.
more legal
So
stuff
if you're living in
happens.
that state, get the fucking ass to the courthouse right now. I know it's Christmas,
Yeah, I
but
mean,
come on.
And so,
You know, they knew
because
it. They were-
Yeah,
right, yeah, and because
Somebody was
that's-
tweeting
well, it's
that immediately,
It's
yeah.
it's like what happened with Prop 8 in California for a while.
yeah.
Everybody went and got married, then they took it down. It took almost 8 months for them
Oh,
to
it's-
repeal it
yeah.
again.
Yeah,
So
no,
but
it couldn't go in
because
a
that
Supreme
is
Court.
what we're talking about right now, that's the more prominent thing. The next thing I want to mention in my top 5 is there's also free speech, and you already touched on this when you mentioned Voltaire. You're not always going to agree with.
No,
Yeah.
generally I hate
You know,
most of the things people say.
And here's where I'm going to go with this very specifically. These same and I'm not making this a right or a left thing, but it kind of is, if we're going to be honest. So the same people at Fox News, the same people in the right-hand conservative party, like the Mike Huckabees, who put out this meme of him and support and this and that and the other. I wouldn't support him, because if you're Mike Huckabee, and here's why I'm going to say that. All you're doing is alienating the entire LGBT community. You're just pissing them off. That's not a good idea.
No.
And secondly,
I think Mike Huckabee thinks he's already done that.
yeah. he's-
But at the end of the day, it's these same people who are freedom of speech, freedom of speech, freedom of speech. That was it just 8 years ago.
We can talk about the
Dixie
Dixie
Chicks.
Chicks. Yeah, the Dixie Chicks
Oh
thing.
my God.
Natalie
Yeah.
from the Dixie Chicks makes
Let's
that
kill
comment.
them all. That's how they
let's
same
have
people.
record
Insane.
burnings.
Yeah,
Right,
they were
same
like,
people.
look at these, they're terrorists.
So
Yeah, I
they all,
haven't smelled so much vinyl burning since the Beatles talked about Jesus.
And last
Yeah.
year with the Rhode Island governor that did the holiday tree thing, I mean, O'Reilly laid into that guy.
He freaked
Into
out.
that guy.
He freaked
Just
out.
into that guy.
God forbid you want to include
So
Other
Non-Christians.
non-Christian holidays.
well, the
in,
thing was, in the governor of Rhode Island, his particular issue, he didn't name it the holiday tree. He said, "Do whatever the last governor did." It's been the holiday tree for like 15
Forever.
years or something. Yeah, it's and it's just, and that's what kills me. That's my number two. It's like, just because you don't agree with free speech doesn't make it free speech. So stop picking and choosing. Stop it. It just pisses me off.
Let me interject there.
Yeah.
And I've had this conversation with people lately, is that to support Phil's right to say whatever he wants, but
And I
not
do.
support A&E's right to
Is
express
also
their
jacked.
views
It's a paradoxical
is
irony.
hypocritical.
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah, it doesn't-
hypocritical to the extreme.
Absolutely.
It's like, if free speech is good, it's good for everybody.
Right.
It's intrinsically
Yep.
good.
Well, speaking
It
on
doesn't
that,
make you a patriot. It makes you a hypocritic asshole.
I don't know if
Yeah.
you guys know this, but A&E, when they send people out to have interviews like this, especially a wild card, Phil's known to be a wild card. It's not shocking. It's not like they didn't know he was doing this. They've had a video from 2010. Go look it up on YouTube. It's out there of him saying the same stuff. When they went to send him to the GQ interview, they said, okay, well, this PR guy is going to go with you.
Right.
Well, the GQ interviewer got real smart. So he asked the PR guy to go get coffee, to go get other stuff.
Yeah.
And he would steal Phil, and they would go elsewhere.
Good
So
for
the
him.
PR guy's walking around going,
right.
oh God, oh God, oh God,
Right.
what's going to happen? What's going to...
Let's let the bureaucrat get coffee. We'll go do the real work.
And this is
stuff.
this is
That's good
the inane, crazy drama that
Wow.
gets strained out of that.
That's crazy. So to add to that, the last two things. One is, this is not religious persecution. And
God,
that's-
no.
And that goes back with the free speech. A&E suspended him because what he said was offensive. And it doesn't have to be that it's offensive on based of religion. It's just fucking offensive. Just like people are going to be immediately offended by me just dropping the F-bomb. Things are offensive to people. And you have to live with those consequences. And
Absolutely.
the very last thing is, and this goes for everything. I'm going to speak specifically gay and for a minute. But this would be for anything: creed, race, religion, regardless.
You're going to talk with a list?
Yeah.
When you, well, yeah, my braces, I can't help it. So, when you
That's what
speak
it
in
is.
public, when you write an article for a blog, a magazine, or any news feature, if you have to think about who's going to read it. So, in this case, think about the fact that someone who is gay is going to read this article.
Yeah.
Someone who is black is going to read this article. Who is a female is going to read this article. And just think about, would you be okay? Now, if he is okay with what he said, that's on him. And I'm not
Yeah,
gonna,
that's
again,
for him
his
to-
speech to say it. But if you stop and think, and here's why I'm going to say that. There are a lot of people who disagree with the and they, as they call it, the homosexual lifestyle. I don't call it that because it is, you just,
Not a
you-
I
fucking
call it.
lifestyle.
I
It's
just
a
call
life.
it living your
it's
life.
who
yeah.
you are, right? I mean, it is just who you are. So people have a problem with sexual orientation, but I know a lot of people who do have a problem with sexual orientation that's beyond straight. They don't agree with bisexual, they don't agree with homosexual, but you know what? They're not dicks about it. You don't have to be a dick about it. You can disagree and have a debate about something, whether you're right or wrong. There's always two sides of an argument, and sometimes both are wrong, sometimes both
Yeah.
are right. But you don't have to be so hateful, and that's the biggest takeaway. I go back to the Dixie Chicks. You know, Natalie says she was ashamed as a joke to be from the United States because of
Texas, to be from Texas.
Texas.
to be from Texas because of George Bush, and people sent her death threats. I mean, forget the CD burning parties and all that other crap. Actually, like, wrote letters telling her to kill herself. Because
Yeah,
she's
and
a
no,
useless
that also
human
said
being.
they were going to kill her.
And-
Like, they had to
right.
put serious
Right, yeah.
security
I
on
mean, it's
everywhere
just-
they went
it's
for like a
just-
year.
It's absolutely ridiculous. So, civil debate, I think, is the cornerstone to what is the republic.
We're going to
that
have
is
to
that
talk
we live
about
in.
this stuff eventually.
Right.
Well, and that's one of the points, is that freedom of speech is important to
Absolutely.
allow unpopular speech, but also to allow responses to unpopular speech.
That
Absolutely.
aren't themselves hateful.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's how we move forward as a country, as
Absolutely.
a democracy, especially as a democracy, is you have to talk about stuff. And the first step to that is to act like your opponent on the other side or the opposing view is worthy of respect and worthy of the dialogue, unless it is just completely out in fucking left field. Like, you don't have to respect the reasons or views of a racist.
Agreed.
Or someone who thinks that there is some innate inequality in any human being. I just like take a cultural anthropology class and come back when you have education.
The second step is to stop lying to your kids about Elf on the Shelf. Stop lying to kids about Elf on the Shelf. That's the second. No, I'm sorry.
Give it up,
But
man.
introduce your children to Big Brother and the occult in one
Thank
step.
you. Just make them read
There you go.
1984. They'll be scared enough. That'll be.
Just for Christmas, fill their stocking with the Confessions of Aleister Crowley.
Nice.
That'll work.
So I've got to ask, since we've got Tess here,
Yes.
if you were to look at this as a media explosion, how would you look at the way that the media in general, on both right and left side, has dealt with this? Do you think CNN's leaned too far towards the LGBT community? Do you think that Fox has leaned too far into the right-wing, liberal media, kill them,
I'll tell you, and this dovetails into what A&E did with suspending him. All network television shows, news or otherwise, are beholden to their advertisers.
Yes.
Yep.
That's where they get their money. And to get advertisers to pay money, they have to have ratings.
Right.
And
So news shows especially do what they need to do to get ratings, and they all have demographics that tell them where their largest base is, and they will always play to that base. Now, for CNN, it's probably heroin addicts who just happen to have the TV on while they're cooking. I don't know.
Wow.
There's not a lot
Dang.
of content on
Wow.
CNN anymore.
Wow. So Anderson
Wolf Blitzer
Cooper,
just
shoot
Yeah,
him,
good.
let's shoot us an email, show@thatstupidpodcast.com. And
Yeah.
Now,
Okay.
I like Anderson Cooper. He's one of the few people who will actually hold somebody's feet to the fire. But Wolf, oh my God!
I admit, I'm not a Wolf Blitzer
I like
fan
Wolf
either.
Blitzer when he's
Piers-
telling me that it's almost midnight on New Year's Eve.
Yeah,
That's not
right.
really.
What's the other guy? Piers Morgan.
Yeah, Piers Morgan.
I'm not a Piers Morgan fan
He's-
either.
I have watched. His
He's the poor man's
interviews,
Simon Cowell who does interviews.
and
Yeah.
he's terrible at it.
He is not very good.
Let me tell
go
you
on
in my British angry voice about why you're wrong.
Go on
Your
YouTube
lame
and watch
British
him
angry voice.
harangue Penn Jillette.
Penn's just gonna destroy him.
Well, I mean, Penn's talking, and Penn's reasonable. He's a very intelligent individual.
Penn Jillette, the nicest
And
atheist your mother will ever love.
Truth.
It's true.
No
Yeah.
fedoras found there,
And-
my lady.
And Piers just like rolls on and rants on with all these unsupportable propositions, and it's like, man, you're educated, you're on TV, have the dignity to realize that you're taking a gamble with whatever your religious belief is, and it is not morally correct or ethically right to gamble with somebody else's money. Right? What they believe is that's their gamble to take. Don't force it on them.
So how do you guys feel, speaking of sponsors, that Duck Dynasty has neither been dropped and are fully supported by both Under Armour, which is their biggest sponsor,
Right.
and the other one, which is like Johnson. It's some form of like towing company or
There's
like.
no such thing as bad publicity.
That's
To a
not
point.
only that, but
Yeah.
like we talked
Anybody
about.
expecting a ghost-written book in the next 2 years?
Yeah, I know.
Just
A&E's running
That's true.
a giant marathon
That's
true.
all this week.
That's true.
Like literally, you can't turn on A&E this week and see anything educational.
Right.
It's all Duck Dynasty
Oh, wait,
all week.
When could you
When-
ever
yeah,
see
that-
educational?
Nero Wolf occasionally.
Touche.
you know.
But
What do you
make
guys
it-
do? You don't like Ancient Aliens? You guys
I'm gonna
don't
go
find
back
that to be.
I want to go back to Tess's point about placating to your demographic and placating to your sponsors, because what a lot of people don't realize, the FCC. I want to talk about the FCC for 20 seconds.
Oh, go ahead.
So the
they don't
FCC,
censor us.
the
Yeah.
FCC regulates
This is all going to be bleeped.
broadcast television, right? That's what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What people don't realize is the FCC does not regulate A&E.
No, they're
Because
cable.
A&E is
They're
cable.
cable.
Yeah.
And or see, any of the other channels
If
like
you're
PBS
not- yeah,
or TNT
you're-
or
if you're
Comedy
not-
it's a
Central
subscription.
If you're not
Service.
ABC,
A few-
CBS,
right.
NBC, or Fox,
or PBS
Or PBS,
the CW,
yeah.
there's a few. I mean, there's
a few.
There's about a dozen
Anything you
broadcasts.
can get with an antenna and
Right.
a rabbit.
yeah.
So the reason I bring that up is because there are a lot of things you don't see. If if A&E or Sci-Fi, for example, I want to talk about Sci-Fi as my example because
Okay.
there's a show I love on Sci-Fi. It starts back in January. It's called Lost Girl.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
I love Lost Girl. It's about a succubus, right? Well, if they wanted to put full-blown titties in that
They
show,
could.
they could do that because
After
they're not
10:30.
they're not. Well, no, it doesn't matter. There's no regulation. Zero regulation. They could show titties in the middle of the day, and they could say shit, piss, and fuck if they wanted to. The reason they don't, sponsors will boycott them. And the reason sponsors will boycott them is because religious right groups and even left groups, liberal left groups, I don't want to say this is a right-wing thing only, for different reasons,
both sides
would put pressure to make that stop.
Have to protect the children.
Which goes back to why
yeah, because let them have all those Bratz dolls and Monster High dolls. Yeah. We're doing them such a service now.
So that's why
Barbies were bad.
That's why it kills me when I see people talking, well, I can't believe A&E got rid of him. It's like, well, of course they did.
I can.
Of course they
did. At least I can understand why. Well, they didn't fire him. They put him on suspension, and he's going to be back.
No.
Like he will. I can guarantee you, either that show's done on that network.
It's done on the network.
The family.
I honestly think that show is done on the network.
The family did put out a statement
saying that they
we won't do it without
him doing the show without him, which is a nice politic way of saying if you don't bring him back, we're not doing it.
They'll bring him back.
I don't think they will.
I think they will.
Mean,
that's A&E's biggest moneymaker right now.
Well, and it's like the most watched.
Because Breaking Bad
is the most watched reality TV show. It is the most profitable reality TV show, and it's the most mass-marketed reality TV show.
Yeah, it's not reality. I know this is a political show, but goddamn.
What'd you see the thing? It said semi-scripted in one of the descriptions, like semi.
Really?
Yeah.
So
just like this is semi. Wait, no, we didn't write anything.
No.
This is not
that clever.
We should be that clever. The show might not suck as much.
I know. We'll work on it.
I mean, the perils of extemporaneous speaking.
Yeah. So
do you guys got anything else?
No, I mean, for me, that's my big things. Just freedom of speech, right? Going back over the list. Freedom of speech, you have the right. Just expect that you aren't going to have zero consequences. Thinking you're going to have no consequences for saying shit like that is stupid. It's just stupid.
Yeah.
Think about your audience. Think about who you're speaking to. If you think it's okay, that's fine. Then, and you're ready for the consequences, say it. Understand this is not religious persecution, and stop harping on the freedom of speech thing. Like Tess said at the very top of the hour, this is not an issue of free speech. It's never been an issue of free speech, and it never will be. Both sides support free speech, both the people who are for him and the people who are not for him. The only thing is, they're all pissed off at A&E.
Tess, you got anything for me?
Yeah, my biggest issue with it, and it's not what's going on with A&E or what happened with what he said. I mean, add him to the list of how many 100,000 bigoted idiots out there, is the way the rest of us reacted to it. I mean, I spent most of the day yesterday arguing with members of my family who are quite intelligent people.
He has to say that because this is on the internet.
Well, no, I have to say
I'm kidding.
It is true. They're intelligent people. They have some blind spots, but don't we all?
Yeah, that's true.
I didn't catch that one.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a deaf spot. Did you go into a dead zone?
I see what you did there.
Anyways,
is looking at the way the public reacted to it and then started spouting off based on their gut reactions. We have emotions. They're tools to help us survive as organisms, but we also have a brain, and that brain allows us to use reason, and reason is another tool. And the fact that people didn't look at this and strain away all the bullshit layers to try to figure out what the essential facts were and what the real point of the deal was bothers me. They just took whatever they were fed by the various many things, jumped off the fucking end of the earth with it, and decided that they were going to be like self-righteously indignant about this thing that was going on that has nothing to do with them. I was like, there's a reason that generally culture's going down the toilet, and it has nothing to do with pornography or drugs or premarital sex.
Because I love all those things.
No, yeah, I think they're the only things gluing this culture together, really.
Send all comments to Red Jeans at thatstupidpodcast.com.
Oh, yeah, I gotta fucking read my email off.
But what dissolves the culture is that we don't stop to think and we don't talk to each other civilly about these issues. That is our founding fathers, there's a reason in Congress that they refer to each other as the gentleman or gentlewoman from. It's because somebody was caned to death in Congress in a fight. And if you look at new democracies around the world, you see fist fights.
Absolutely.
And
look at Europe
and Thailand and all kinds of stuff like that.
Yep.
So our founding fathers weren't mealy-mouthed little sissies. who were afraid of confrontation. They fought a lot, but
Didn't Jackson get shot like twice while he was?
and that's probably the reason he was not a fan
Yeah.
of confrontation. He tended to not like to do things in person. Just watch Aaron Burr get shot.
Yeah.
But they, at the end of the day, let their emotions do their thing, but also use their reason and talk to each other to come up with a solution. And these people that say, we need to get back to God and that'll make this country better, or we need to go back to like the 1950s and that'll make this country better, or we need to be whatever.
Talk it out, bitch.
They find any ism that they want to cling to that they think works, or they thought worked, or they saw worked in a Tom Hanks movie once. No. What works is us, citizens, talking. It's called middle democracy, and if we engage in it and respect each other, then we might actually keep things from going to hell in a handbasket.
If you guys like this is what's going to be here. I'm never going to be here again unless we have another school shooting and they talk about video games. But this is the basis of political prowess. And I'm going to leave it to these guys. They're going to be the ones that you're going to be looking at. Stay tuned. It's going to be a huge part of this network. It's going to be the first new show that we launch. If you like this, come back for more. We probably won't be shooting here. We'll probably be shooting in a semi-round table setting.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. It's been fun, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening.